From Music City, USA, it's David Hooper and Music Business Radio.
From the TuneIn Broadcasting Studios in Nashville, Tennessee, this is Music Business Radio, your backstage pass to the music business. My name is David Hooper. I'm your host. With me today, Lisa Harless, Senior Vice President of Regions Bank, Private Wealth Advisor of the Sports and Entertainment Division. Lisa, welcome to Music Business Radio.
Thank you, Dave. I am thrilled to be here. It is a fabulous day in Nashville, Tennessee, and where better to be than Lightning 100? That's what I'm saying.
We are here in the Lightning 100 studios, our flagship station here in Marathon Village. Used to be an old car factory.
There's a very cool ambiance here. I loved coming up those steps and walking down the wooden floors and seeing the very, very cool art of the vintage cars, and made me think about those Art Deco cars down at the Frisk Center.
Right. If we'd been more successful at cars, we might be Motor City, like Detroit, instead of Music City. But we're going to dive into the Music City of the music business in Nashville, because you're a banker, but Bart Herbison from Nashville Songwriters Association, we've had him online here. He said, you're one of us. People consider you in the music business because people are thinking, why are you having a banker on Music Business Radio? Because you're one of us.
Well, I appreciate Bart's kind words, and I do feel like part of the music community. You know, this is my 28th year with Regions Bank, and I have been so blessed to get to know some of the biggest names in show business and to work with now the second generation of a lot of my clients. And David, it's just incredibly fulfilling having the chance to help my clients reach their financial goals. It's wonderfully fulfilling.
Normally, we like to drop a lot of names on Music Business Radio. We can't really do that because of
there's a confidentiality.
Yes. You're dealing with finances here, but you've got some great stories. One of them is how you actually ended up in what I'll call the music business. We talked about it a little bit before we came here on the air, but I'm going to let you tell the story now.
Absolutely. Well, I'm a graduate of Lipscomb University right here in Nashville, and graduated back in 81. And at that time, schools like Lipscomb and Belmont and MTSU did not have the really advanced music programs like they have now. But as a student, I really enjoyed I was in a band at Lipscomb, a band called Windsong, and we traveled on behalf of the admissions office. Then the year I graduated, I worked in the development office helping with fundraising. We put on 2 concerts, Ronnie Millsap and Louise Mandrell, and I had the chance to visit radio stations much like this to promote the show. Hired my mother to sell tickets in a ticket office. I thought that was a cool family move there. And really got my taste of the music business and that side of it. A man named Jim Busby was the head of Aetna Insurance Company. He heard me give a speech as a student at Lipscomb, and 3 years later offered me a job at Aetna Insurance Company working with contractors and subcontractors. Well, Aetna was a fabulous company. It was a great opportunity. Jim Busby couldn't have been a grander man. Then First American National Bank was looking for someone to lend to the contractors and subcontractors, and I thought this is a chance to be in the headquarters of this bank. And so I came over to the bank at that point, and even today, David, I fill out these weekly activity reports, and I talk about clients I'm going to call on and the prospects that I want to do business with. And back then, now I'm going to make up some fictitious names, right, to protect the innocent.
Sure.
But my weekly activity reports were companies like, I'll just say David, like David Highway Paving or Dan's Sewer Company or Gary's architectural firm. And then I'm looking at call reports from a lady named Joyce Rice, who was starting an office on the Music Row. And again, I can't say the names, but they were some of the biggest legendary names in country music. So I'm looking at my list. David, Sewer Company, Bubba, Highway Paving, and then I'm looking at these big names. Well, clients and friends and colleagues at the bank knew how much I loved music. And I mentioned to our boss at that time, I said, now, if you need any help at that Music Row office, that is right down my alley. I appreciate the creative spirit. I love finding out about who wrote which song. And I went to fill in for Joyce while she was in London for 2 weeks. And guess what? I never went back downtown to work with the contractors. I had found my love, and that is helping people in the music industry determine their financial goals and then reach those. 28 years and still rocking.
Still here, and we're going to dive into that today here on Music Business Radio. I think of music and banking as 2 separate entities. There's music, which I consider like a creative endeavor, we'll say. And then there's banking, which is all facts and figures, and you seem to be a really great mix of that.
Well, I think both sides of the brain are always clicking. And I do, first and foremost, I do have a true appreciation for people's artistic gifts. And that's true not just for musical arts, but for visual arts and all the different creative arts. I just think it's so incredible when people have a gift that manifests itself, whether it's in a fabulous painting or a fabulous song. But then the other side of that is to be a banker, to be a number cruncher, you've got to have an aptitude with numbers. And I was so blessed that that's an attribute or a trait that I possess. In high school, I was entered into math contests and always wanted to excel and achieve. So I'm one of those rarities that both sides of the brains, well, maybe it's not rare, but I can crunch the numbers, but at the same time, I can cut up with a songwriter who comes in and grabs the guitar in my office and plays me the latest song. I can easily transition. And you know, I think, David, in the music industry, to some point, you have to be a little bit of a chameleon when it comes to dealing with the different personalities.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
And that's probably true in a lot of industries. But, you know,
we've got some weird personalities in the music business, though.
Well, they're very creative. And so
Absolutely.
They may not be so good in balancing a checkbook or thinking about the payment of income taxes. But, you know, it's because they do have the gift of creativity that they can write an award-winning song and then generate a six-figure income that warrants my needs and services.
Well, see, that's what I think is different about what you're doing and why we brought you in here today, because you understand the asset of what it is that musicians and songwriters do. Like a lot of times people think of assets, they're going to think of real property, they're thinking of buildings, they're thinking of land, they're thinking of pork bellies, cattle, or soybeans, whatever.
That's right.
You're saying that when I come to you for a loan as a songwriter, you're looking at their song, you're looking at royalty statements, you're looking at their potential to earn money based on something that really is kind of in their head.
That's true. And the very first thing to get your hands around is the fact that, you know, look, I'm a salaried employee of a fabulous bank. I've been there 28 years. I know that every 2 weeks I'm going to get a paycheck, and I know that my employer will hold out a certain amount that's going to be due for federal income taxes. So when April 15th of that following year rolls around, I won't be in a panic because they will have, for the most part, provided that payment of the taxes. Once you're dealing with the self-employed musician, songwriter, engineer, composer, they're generally filing what's the Schedule C of a tax return. They don't get a W-2 each month, each week, every 2 weeks. And so all of a sudden it becomes their responsibility to make sure they pay taxes, that they have the appropriate types of insurance. And the other big difference that I find is that their cash flows are very uneven. I can prepare a budget for my household because I know exactly how much I'm going to be getting in a year's time. And then I can look at my fixed expenses and which ones are variable. Well, the real challenge for clients in the entertainment business is songwriters, for instance, generally get paid on a quarterly basis. Once every 3 months, right?
Right.
Now, many of them are on a draw, which means their publisher is advancing them money each month, and they often use that for rent or their mortgage or the car note. But generally speaking, they're thinking in terms of, wow, I'm getting paid every quarter. Now, there's been some recent announcement by the PRO CSAC that they're now paying on a monthly basis, and BMI and ASCAP pay on a quarterly basis, and there may be some change in that. But just imagine if all of a sudden you're trying to get a paycheck that you get 4 times a year, that creates its own challenges.
Well, it would, because so many musicians work day jobs and they're used to being paid every week, every other week, maybe every month. Some jobs would. They're used to having taxes taken out.
Right.
And you really have to get good with financing or budgeting yourself, having a budget. Do you have any tips for that?
Well, that's something that we spend a lot of time on. You know, part of my job as a banker is a coach. You mentioned that there was someone important in your life that's a health coach. Well, I'm a financial wellness coach. A lot of my time is spent getting folks geared up maybe to buy that first home or that first condo. So a self-employed client on their Schedule C, which is where they're going to report a lot of their income, most of their income, they're going to have write-offs. And they're going to be at the bar talking to their buddy and going, oh, man, I reported negative $2,000 in income. I didn't have any tax liability. Isn't that incredible? And they toast, right? They may toast their sweet teas, but they're toasting. Well, then the next day they come in to talk to me and to my colleague, Corey Owen. They want to get a mortgage. Well, guess what, David? First thing we need to see are the last 2 years of their personal tax returns.
Right. And you want to see them making some money, not writing everything off, right?
Right. So all of a sudden, if they have written off everything as a legitimate expense, but still they have written off or offset all of their income with expenses, that is telling a lender, guess what? There's no income left to incur debt. So where we do a lot of very helpful coaching, as my boss Lee Blank says, Lisa, it's math. And he's exactly right. So much of the lending is math and a solid credit report. But we will say, okay, if you want to buy a $200,000 condo and there's going to be a 20% down payment, so you avoid private mortgage insurance, this is how much income you need to generate and report in order to qualify.
So it's a $200,000 condominium. They're putting $40,000 down, so they need $160,000. That's the spread. What do they need to know when they come to you?
Right. So they'll come to me. I'll introduce them to my mortgage specialist, Corey Owen, and we will actually begin calculating ratios. And we're going to say, what are your fixed expenses? Do you have student loan debt? Do you have car loans? Are there credit card debts out there? And then we look at all the debts, and then we plug in what the estimated payment would be based on the mortgage, and then look at their income. And then there are debt ratio requirements that have to be met. And then in addition to that, we pull the credit report. And, you know, it is so amazing. It's often little things that can totally impact a credit report in a negative way. For instance, cell phone use. We all have cell phones. Many times folks will change carriers to take advantage of a discount or to get a new phone. And maybe they've left a balance unpaid. It may be $55, and they're thinking, it's $55. Mm-hmm. What could that possibly do to me?
Well, apparently not get a mortgage.
Right. I mean, it's those small things that can actually become collection items,
right,
which are classified as a major derogatory item. So it's little things like that we try to encourage folks early on in their credit life to pay attention to. David, I'll tell you another one that folks often don't think about. On a credit report, a credit score is derived from a combination of things. Do you own or rent your home? How long have you worked with this employer? What trades do you have reporting? Were these installment loans? Were these credit card or revolving credits? And then there's one at the end about inquiries. And if you have too many or excessive inquiries, that can actually drive your credit score down. So, for instance, let's say you're going to buy a new vehicle. What do you drive, Dave?
I drive a Subaru.
Oh, very nice, very safe, great reputation vehicle. All right, well, let's say you're going to get a newer Subaru, and you're like, well, I'm going to shop around. I want the best rate. I want the best price on that car. Well, once you provide your social security number to your sales rep or the finance department at that dealership, you are giving them the opportunity to pull your credit. So let's say you say, well, I know of 3 fabulous Subaru dealerships, and baby, I'm going to check them all because I want the absolute best price. Well, I just encourage you not to be quick in saying, hey, pull my credit. Hey, here's my social security number, because you don't want too many inquiries on your credit report.
Okay, that's a great tip. David Hooper here, Music Business Radio. Lisa Harless is with me, Senior Vice President of Regions Bank. She's a private wealth advisor in their sports and entertainment division. Sounds like a banker, but she's actually in the music business, which is why we have her here on Music Business Radio, talking about how to get a car loan, how to get a mortgage. When we come back, I'm going to share my experience with your bank. I think you'll find it interesting, Lisa.
I love a testimony.
More from Lisa Harless when we come back on Music Business Radio.
A man can go insane trying to make it in this game. I got a pocket full of change.
Hey, this is Will Hogue, and you're listening to Music Business Radio.
Lightning 100's Live on the Green concert series continues Thursday night at Public Square Park, featuring Matt Nathanson, the Mowglis, and Aaron McCarley. Live on the Green 2013 Week 2, powered by TVA Green Power Switch, the Nashville Scene, and Griffin Technology. Visit liveonthegreen.net.
Go on, circle honey pie. Tonight I'm gonna testify. Make the day celebrate, and you don't have to try.
Hi, this is Jim Lauderdale. and I learned everything I know about the music business on Music Business Radio.
This is Music Business Radio, your backstage pass to the music business. My name is David Hooper. I'm your host. And with me today, Lisa Harless, Senior Vice President, Regions Bank. She's a private wealth manager in their sports and entertainment division.
And proud to be here, I must say.
Glad to have you here. I got to tell you about Regions. I've been banking with Regions probably about 15 years. It started out as First American, and it was right off Music Row, and this is why I went there.
This, my man, is music to my ears.
Well, it's right down the street from the post office that everybody has, the Ackland Post Office,
That's
which
right.
Everybody in the music business has a box there.
37212 is that zip?
Right. The Hillsborough Village branch. And I had a call from Regions about 2 weeks ago. Scared me to death, I'll be honest with you, because it's
I bet you thought, oh my goodness, my account is overdrawn?
I thought I was in trouble for something. I thought
Right.
they'd shut the account down because I'm used to getting in trouble from authority like a lot of musicians.
I don't believe that for a minute.
And what it was Regions calling me up just to make sure I was happy, which you don't hear that a lot. He said, I'm just calling to make sure you're happy with Regions. I said, what? I was so shocked.
Right.
But you guys are doing a really great job. And the reason I bring that story up is I think that a lot of musicians, they're the creative types. They're not the kind of people that are keeping receipts and keeping records. They're a lot of times worried about the day-to-day just survival. This environment can be very intimidating to walk into a bank, but it's nothing to be intimidated about.
You're exactly right, because we know the sensitivities and the mindset of the creative folks that come through our doors. The first thing, David, is when you come into our office in the Roundabout Plaza, you walk into our lobby, you don't realize you're even in a bank. We have the Beatles exhibit, we've got the Riders in the Sky exhibit, and it's only when you step on into our lobby that you see, okay, this is a real bank, a regular bank. And we pride ourselves in having the personalities that understand the creative spirit and the creative mind. And, I can't tell you how many times I've said there's no such thing as a silly question when it comes to finances. And because many of the things that we talk about, we start with very basics. And I'll run into friends at church or at reunions, and they're going, but did the stars, why would they need banking? Don't they just have enough cash? Why did they borrow? What did the stars borrow money for?
Right.
And I start out by saying, well, first and foremost, clients in the music industry have the same basic banking needs.
Sure.
We need checking accounts. We need debit cards. We need savings accounts or money markets. But then when it does come time to buy the home or the second home, the airplane, the tour bus, then the needs get more sophisticated, and it's important for clients to know there are banks that understand that. I can't tell you how many tour buses I've financed in my career, and I know that just because someone says a bus is, I'll say, a 1993 Prevost, that doesn't necessarily mean, oh my goodness, the bus is that long or that old, because we know they get rebuilt engines
Sure.
and generators, and that baby may be humming like a 2013.
Well, you're a specialist. And that's what I brought up in the last section is you understand the value of a song. You understand the timeline of a song. You know what CSAC and BMI and ASCAP are.
Right.
A lot of bankers wouldn't know that.
Right. We'll come back to exactly what you just said right then, is understanding what the asset is. Usually when you think about lending, you mentioned it a few moments ago, real estate. You can touch it, you can appraise it, you can insure it, you can walk in it or on it. That's a
You can repossess it.
We can take it back. No, but it's a tangible, what we call a tangible asset. Well, all of a sudden, a songwriter who creates a song, that is an intangible asset. We can't touch it, but yet it's evidenced by a copyright. That's what evidences the ownership of a song, is a copyright. And a collection of copyrights would be a catalog of songs. And just as we know how real estate gets appraised, guess what? A catalog of songs gets appraised. But to your point, an entertainment banker possesses that expertise and knows that, okay, now first of all, we've got to get this asset appraised. And so I'm going to work with one of Music Row's top entertainment accountants or entertainment attorneys that understands that, whoa, we've got to look at the net publisher share and then apply an appropriate multiple. And then the bank will put some kind of a loan to value against that, maybe 80%. But that's the type of specialty lending that you get with an entertainment banker that you're right. If you go into another branch anywhere else, that's not going to be routine language for
Well,
them.
it looks like just a piece of paper. So let me see if I understand this.
Yes.
I come in, I'm a brand new songwriter, and I've got a song on hold by, we'll say, Randy Travis. You guys are going to look at that.
Yes, absolutely. Now, when you use the word hold, it is a 4-letter word, but and a songwriter would probably say the same.
So we need to explain what hold is. Hold is where it hasn't been cut yet or added to the album yet, but they're thinking about it.
Yes, exactly. So let's say that his producer has said, you know what, we've narrowed it down to 25 songs, and this one that David wrote or co-wrote, it's got some potential. Now, till we determine exactly what songs are going to be on this project, we don't know, but we have the exclusive right to hold it. We're going to get first right of refusal until we release our hold. So guess what? I have heard so many songwriters at these rounds talk about a song being on hold many times for months and then finding out at the last minute it didn't make the cut. So I would not be in a position to lend you money at that point.
Well, what if I had a cut and it's going to be the first single? Now we talking?
We're getting closer, David.
Okay.
Now I take you to Nashville for breakfast. Now we start to bond, because that means we really have the potential for some money. Now, with the songwriters, there's 2 big main categories of royalties. There is a third one I'll allude to, but there's your performance royalties from airplay. That's why they love Lightning 100 and all the radio stations. There are mechanical royalties, which were from the sale of the units, like the CDs. And then there are synchronization rights when they're used in movies or television shows. The key ones are performance and mechanical royalties. So now, if your song is definitely a cut on that record, you and the publisher of that song, you're going to get some money. But where it really, really, really kicks in is when it is released as a single. That's when I take you to the Palm.
Because it's going to get a lot of airplay in
Yes.
theory, and you guys can loan against that.
Right. And so what I do is I'm watching those Billboard charts, the music charts, to see how a song is proceeding up or down the chart, because obviously you want to ascend, because that means you're going to get more performance royalty income. And then I think your listener probably knows, but once a song is like number 1 or number 2 or number 3, you will not recognize that performance royalty income probably for another 9 months.
Right. They got to, BMI or ASCAP, they got to go out and collect it.
Right. And that's what it's called, like money that's in the pipeline. So you don't need to start going and looking at the new Subarus at this point. You'll be tempted, David. But I'm going to say, hang on, buddy.
I think I'm going to upgrade if I'm ascending the charts like that.
Yes, exactly. But those are great points that you're making, because that is the path the song can take. It can be put on hold, it can be an album cut, or it can be a single and then really generate some tremendous potential for income, which then generates great potential for what the banking needs you're going to have at Regions.
Well, that brings me, I think, to a really great segue, is that a lot of times you think something is going to go one way and it doesn't. And I imagine that's one of the issues that you see with upcoming songwriters, musicians, or maybe even the veterans, that you think that, man, I've got this cut and it's going to be a single, so let's go out and buy a yacht.
Right.
And they get over their head because, like you said, the money is in the pipeline, they think, and there's cash flow issues. So what is your advice for artists who are just trying to deal with cash flow and just kind of keep it balanced?
Right. I guess it's a profound saying. The only thing certain about the music industry is the uncertainty thereof. But there is a tremendous amount of uncertainty, a gamble of not knowing which way it can go. You know, you can study the music industry and see many times there are short career spans from incredibly talented people. I compare this to the sports world, where the average lifespan of an NFL player, not lifespan, but career span, is around 3.5 years. And so, you know, that NFL player may be cranking in the cash, but if he's got that short career span, he's going to have to do 2 things. 1, budget and not spend it all and save. And then secondly, he's got to have an alternate career plan for when he retires from the NFL. But back to the music industry, you're right, there are uncertainties. One thing I've always liked to point out to folks is sometimes the songwriters, the ace songwriters, are some of my absolute best, most financially stable clients. Because think about this, David. The overhead for a songwriter, it's pretty much a new set of strings on his guitar every year. And versus when you've got the artists, they're giving up so many percentages of their income to all the people that are part of
Everybody's
their
on the
team.
payroll. Let's dive into that. When we come back, I'm going to talk about the differences of that because I think that's great. I love it how a songwriter can pull something out of thin air. They can be broke 1 minute and make a ton of money the next. Lisa Harless from Regions Bank is here. This is David Hooper. You're listening to Music Business Radio.
You're listening to Music Business Radio on the web at musicbusinessradio.com.
You know what's wrong? Not supporting local music. That's wrong. Littering is wrong, too. Learn more about the campaign that's righting Nashville's wrongs, brought to you by TDOT and the Metro Beautification and Environment Commission. Visit litterfreenashville.org.
But it's you I fell into.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dave Grohl of the Foo Fighters. You're listening to Music Business Radio.
This is Music Business Radio, your backstage pass to the music business. My name's David Hooper. With me today, Lisa Harless, Senior Vice President, Regions Bank. She's a private wealth advisor in their sports and entertainment division.
Where there is never a dull moment,
Never
David.
a dull moment. And you're one of us. As Bart Herbison from National Songwriters Association said, you are in the music business, even though on your card it says private wealth advisor.
Well, I'm so blessed to get to be a part of all that makes up this music business and music community, and to be able to call friends and clients who are some of Nashville's top artists and recording engineers and producers and publishers. I am one blessed child and thrilled to be at Lightning 100 to talk about it.
They say money can't buy happiness.
Okay, well, maybe a little bit, David.
Well, that's my next question. You've seen a lot of lives change because of money.
Right.
I'd like to talk about your songwriter clients. In the last section, you said, their expenses were guitar and a new pack of strings, and all of a sudden they've got this intellectual property that's making them quite a bit of money. So how have you seen lives change because of great financial planning and just being ready for that success when it happens?
Well, the music industry in the 28 years that I have been on Music Row has transitioned one way in that there's been merger and consolidation, as in so many industry, but also it has become so much more sophisticated. I think about the fact that now you have entertainment bankers. And when I started out, there were 2 or 3, but now you have multiple banks with multiple bankers. You have entertainment law firms. You have the entertainment accountants and business managers who work hand in hand with the bankers to make sure their clients' financial needs are met. When you look at the different players on Music Row, there are different demands on their income, for instance. You take a songwriter, and to your point, he's got his housing, his family, their tuition, utilities, car, that kind of thing. But for the most part, when he gets those big royalty checks in, that's his to spend on those items. Now let's contrast that to a recording artist who's touring on the road. Well, you look at the demands on their income. First of all, if they're touring, which that's generally a huge part of their income source, there's 10% going to the booking agent. Then you've got the artist manager who's overseeing all the aspects of that career. That can be 15 to 20%. Then you've got the business manager, and that could be another 5%. So bam, right off the top, you've got those expenses. Then that recording artist, he's on the road. He's got the expenses of his band, of his bus, whether he's buying it or leasing it, insurance, wardrobe. You start adding that up, and then you're going, whoa, there are a lot of demands on the income of the recording artist. And so from a lending standpoint, I have to evaluate all of that in determining if they're eligible to get another house or a larger home or the yacht on Center Hill or the airplane, whether that's the Boeing or whatever airplane it is. But you're right, each industry segment has its own unique cash flows coming in and then expenses that have to be covered out of it. With a recording artist, mechanical sales from record sales, they have got to sell a ton of units because the label has got to recoup their cost, right?
Yeah, the artist is the last person to get paid on
Exactly.
that. Just like we're talking about all the money coming from the artist to pay for everything else, the label has to
Right.
pay for their stuff before the artist makes money.
Exactly. So guess what? Where is that artist going to get the money to cover their monthly overhead and to buy the things that they need? It's that tour income, it is merchandising, and it's tour sponsorships. And so every time I pick up a magazine, I just saw an ad in Redbook with Martina, and she's a spokesperson for Pandora. I'm like, way to go, because we've got this great representative of country music, and she's endorsing this jewelry line that she and her daughters probably enjoy. And I'm thinking, that's good. There's probably a little sponsorship revenue there. So those are the biggies, the sponsorships, tour income, and merchandising. Those become a huge, huge part of the cash flow for that artist.
You're listening to Music Business Radio, your backstage pass to the music business. I'm David Hooper, your host. With me today, Lisa Harless, Senior Vice President of Regions Bank, Private Wealth Advisor in their sports and entertainment divisions. So if I come to you for a loan, Lisa, and...
First, I get very excited because we have loan goals. We love to lend.
We're
all about
money.
lending.
Yeah.
So I get very excited.
So if you need money, call Lisa. But you got to have it together, which is why we're talking here today.
That's right.
If I'm coming to you and I need money for an album, something that I can sell, something that will generate me more money, is that the kind of thing that you look at as opposed to if I come to you? I mean, do you ask what the money's for? I guess that's what I'm getting at.
Absolutely. That's the first and foremost question, is what is the purpose of the money? And that tells me a couple of things. One, that there is a legitimate need and a legitimate and legal purpose of what the funds will be used for. Not to think you would ever do anything illegal, David. You look like a nice guy.
Well, it is the music business. You never know.
But I still have to ask that question. But then secondly is when I lend money, the purpose and the collateral has to match up with the repayment terms we offer. For instance, if you're buying a home, you can get up to a 30-year mortgage, a 30-year opportunity to repay that debt. If you come to me and say, I am equipping this studio, I need a console, I need all these mics, all this equipment, then I'm going to go, well, you know what? The average lifespan of this equipment may be, and actually that's getting smaller and shorter because of all the technological advances.
Yep.
But let's say maybe that's going to be more of a 3 to 5 year time frame. So first and foremost, the collateral that you're offering and the purpose, I will match that up with the right term, and then that determines your interest rate. But I know your question was, all right, say I'm going to invest in a money-making opportunity versus satisfying a desire to get a yacht, right? A Sea Ray, whatever. If you have financial means, you've got proven income track record, you've got good credit, I'm going to support your ability and decision to buy a vessel of the ocean. Doesn't that sound glamorous? You would have to call it like the Mona Lisa or the Mary Lisa or something, though.
Absolutely, I would.
You're that kind of guy. But now when you're talking about coming to a bank and saying, hey, I'm an independent artist, I'm waiting tables or bussing tables right now, I'd like to get me maybe 5 or 10 grand. My buddy's got a studio in his home. This is probably a very real life scenario. And you're essentially saying, I don't really have any collateral. I don't have much credit. And my last 2 years' tax returns aren't really strong because what income I have made, well, I haven't reported it, but I've had no taxes. Honestly, very straightforwardly, it's going to be tough for a bank to provide that lending solution.
So what is your advice for somebody like that? They're waiting tables at the Bluebird or doing whatever starving musicians do, and they want to take it to the next level, and they need a little money to maybe get that going. What's your advice for somebody like that?
I've got 2 or 3 thoughts that come to mind, and they may be a little left of center, but so is the music business. You know, you hear about angel investors, and I certainly have clients who they have met the doctor from Florida or the oil man from Texas that has wanted to get close to the music industry and is investing in their career. So it's not unheard of for there to be an angel investor. Now, I can't tell you how many emails I get from potential clients or clients going, hey, I'm needing X amount. Do you know of any angel investors? I do not have a magic file of
no, isn't that usually family, though? Somebody who's really
Many
invested.
times.
It's either family or somebody, like you said, that wants to be in the music industry, that thinks the music industry is exciting, and they just want to say, hey, I'm in the music business.
Right, exactly. Many times it is a family member. You're exactly right. right.
But you're not the clearinghouse for those people, just to be clear.
I do not have the log of angel investors for this zip code. You're exactly right. And then another thought is, it is amazing what people can do with Pro Tools and with the small studios in their home, and to start saving a little bit from each paycheck till you can get some basic home studio equipment. Another thought is the whole bartering concept. I had lunch yesterday with Mary Hance, who those in Nashville know about Ms. Cheap and the money-saving tips that she gives. And maybe you've got a skill or a talent, and it may be boarding a home or painting a house or laying brick or stone, but maybe you can barter your talents and your skill and sweat equity for some studio time that one of your buddies has. So I would just encourage folks to be creative. Nashville is full of entrepreneurs who are looking for ways to help each other and make money, and those are just some immediate thoughts that come to mind.
I want to emphasize something that you said that I think may be the most important part of this whole episode that we're in here doing, which is that you don't necessarily need the money to do what it is that you want to do. With all the technology that we have, it's not like we have to hire a professional studio now. You could record something at your house, and it could be excellent. It's really more about talent than it is technology. And I think that's something that sometimes we forget that. We think, well, if only I had a bus, I'd be more successful than this van that we're touring in. As long as the van is getting you there, maybe it's not comfortable, but it gets you there.
Right. And, we're hearing more and more folks talk about how they're using social media, how they use YouTube videos. It's incredible the power at our disposal, at our fingertips, with very limited funds in this day and age to get your music heard, to promote product. So you're exactly right. It's a new day. It's a new age. And what that means to the record labels is their business model is changing. So they're looking at things like this, at social media, at YouTube. How do they get the word out about their artists?
Well, one of the things that we do here on Music Business Radio to get the word out for upcoming musicians is we take demos from around the world.
Wonderful.
And we play them. I'm going to have you and I talk about them when we come back. I wasn't going to do this with you, Lisa. We're going to continue to talk about money, but I found out that you actually do this all the time. You actually listen to music, and you have opinions on music, and you do that because you're one of us.
I do. I love
you're not
music,
just a banker.
all genres.
You're in the music business. We're going to talk about that. Dave's Demo Derby is next on Music Business Radio.
Now I'm smoking into Texas with a hammer down and a rockin' little combo from the guitar town.
This is Emmylou Harris, and you're listening to Music Business Radio, your backstage pass to the biz.
Lightning 100's Live on the Green concert series continues Thursday night at Public Square Park, featuring Matt Nathanson, the Mowglis, and Aaron McCarley. Live on the Green 2013 Week 2, powered by TVA Green Power Switch, the Nashville Scene, and Griffin Technology. Visit liveonthegreen.net.
Put the gun down, put the gun down. I'm gonna set fire to the whole damn house. Put it down, put it down, put it down, put it down.
Hey, it's ZZ Ward, and you're listening to Music Business Radio.
We're back with Music Business Radio. My name is David Hooper. I'm your host. And with me today, Lisa Harless, Senior Vice President at Regions Bank, Private Wealth Advisor, Sports and Entertainment Divisions. Lisa, we've got a section of the show, we call it Dave's Demo Derby.
Very cool. I love a good derby, especially when there's music.
Well, I wasn't going to put you through this, but you are in the music business, and you do this actually all the time.
Yeah, I call this a treat.
We're going to fire this up right here. Got demos from around the world today. The first we've got is Slim Loris. Slim is from Sweden, somewhere in Sweden. And this song is called Head on the Floor. Slim Loris on Music Business Radio.
She wakes up early in the morning, while I'm happily still asleep. Gets on the bus and goes to work, where she will spend her day with dreams passing through her head. She gets so tired, feeling weary. Get some food and goes to bed. Our time is spent, have dozed off in front of the TV, but there ain't no place I'd rather be. Her head is shed on the floor. 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 Her head is shed.
Slim Loris on Music Business Radio Demo Derby. Head on the floor. Lisa, I think there's a little Nashville influence, or else we're being influenced by Sweden.
I think you're right. No, it's got that unplugged, very earthy acoustic thing going on. And, of course, I always love me some banjo. Anytime you give me a little banjo, I think of folks like our new Charlie Worsham over on Warner Brothers Records. But very cool. Got the little background harmonies and the little hand clapping. I think it's got a cool vibe.
Well, Matt and Carl sent me a letter about this, and they said the album can be streamed online at slimloris.bandcamp.com. But what really caught me, and I think it's a great topic of discussion, is 2 of the songs from this album were featured in a Swedish film. Unfortunately, I can't read the title. Do you know Swedish? We can maybe have you do it. But it's a great segue, I think, to talk about what you talked about with synchronization royalties. That's something that you guys are looking at more and more, I imagine, with all this independent film and video and even YouTube. They're paying out royalties on these videos they have.
Yeah, and another thing I was noticing that, we were talking about how you can do so much of this yourself, and that Slim is actually the producer and the arranger, and he co-engineered the project, so very much of a hands-on project that was done here. But yeah, I mean, synchronization rights, that's when you can get royalty income when songs are used in film and television. And I know there's the new kids movie out right now, and my sister texted me, Heather texted and said, Frank Myers and Gary Baker have got to be stoked because I Swear is in this film. So, yeah, I get very excited. Then you've got folks in Nashville like Anastasia Pruitt, whose job is to try to get music placed into films and TV shows. So I think it's very cool. This song was reminiscent to me of maybe some of the music from Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
So Slim Loris, if you like it, slimloris.com or slimloris.bandcamp.com to stream the whole album. Next up, we've got Mike Aiken. This is a local guy from Nashville here. He's got a record called Captains and Cowboys, and this is maybe an environmental thing. We're going to find out. This song is called Save the Whales.
Grandpa was a boy. He went down to the general store, saw a picture book of a whale shooting his spout and slapping his tail. Then he got a sailor's dream, cruising around those salty seas, joining up with a fishing crew. Go out and get him a whale or two. Tell me, what kind of men are these? Sail across salty seas, up and rigging in the afternoon, swap the decks and sharpen harpoons. Hooray, up she rises, hooray, and up she rises, hooray, up she rises early in the morning. Hooray, up she rises, hooray, and up she rises, hooray, up she rises early in the morning. Lots of whales in the deep blue sea, and we'll kill them for the industry. We'll drag them alongside, cut them in two, melt them down and sell them to you. Hardly is a sailor alive.
Mike Aiken on Music Business Radio, Demo Derby. MikeAikenmusic.com is his website. Save the Whales is the song. Lisa, we were talking about endorsements as a way that musicians are boosting their income. And Mike actually has quite a bit of endorsements here on his liner notes. Takamine Guitars, Ovation, Kaiser Strings, Seymour Duncan, Those are some pretty good endorsements.
Very cool. So he probably has some very cool musical equipment. And when he's out on the road, he probably prominently places that equipment and those guitar cases and other instrument cases around. Yeah, I see that he's described as a well-traveled Virginia troubadour. And, you know, that particular song had a real Irish feel to it. And I saw that it's recorded at Sound Emporium, which is right down the way over on Belmont.
Right on Belmont Boulevard.
A lot of great music made there.
Did you see the producer, Dan Baird?
Very cool.
Of Georgia Satellites. So he's got some really great people on this. And if you like him, MikeAikenmusic.com.
And that's AIKEN music.com.
Next up, all the way from Southern California, this is World 5. World5music.com is the website. The song, You and I.
When I look into your eyes, I see the better half of me. Something I could never see. Didn't know where I belong until you came along. When I think about our lives, you're ever near me with a loving hand, helping me become a better man. You always see me through, and I'm always there for you. You and I, spending our lives. You and I, heart side by side. You and I, walking life's highway. You and I, forever through time. When bad times come around, and I find myself knocked to the floor, you remind me what I'm fighting for. I do it for your smile. You make it all worthwhile. Has it ever crossed your mind?
World 5 on Music Business Radio, the song You and I. This is an advanced copy of an album called Global Experience. And Lisa, this is really interesting. Island Def Jam is the label.
You know, I felt all kind of influences there. Started out with kind of that 60s groove and then almost a little bit of a Latin influence. And, you know, I can see myself out on the beach and hearing the music coming from the venue and seeing everybody kind of sipping their umbrella drinks and totally getting into that groove.
This is like the last album and that they're working with a lot of great people. It was produced by 16-time nominated, 4-time Grammy award-winning producer Randy Miller. Worked with Destiny's Child, Kelly Rowland, and Mark Anthony. And it looks like Island Def Jam is actually doing their distribution. It's on Black Mountain Productions. That's the name of the label. So
cool harmonies there at the end, too.
Out of Southern California, that was World 5. World5music.com is the website. Next up from Perth, Australia, this is Jade Diary, and the song is Love, Thy Will Be Done.
Love, Thy will be done. I can no longer hide. I can no longer run, no longer can I resist the guiding light that gives me the power to keep up the fight. Love, Thy will be done. Since I have found you, my life has just begun, and I see all of your creations as one perfect complex. No one less beautiful or more special than the next. We are all blessed and so wise to accept. Thy will, love, be done. Love, Thy will be mine, and make me strive for the glorious and divine. I could not be more satisfied. Even when there's no peace outside my window, there's peace inside, and that's why I no longer run. Love, Thy will be done.
Jade Diary on Music Business Radio Demo Derby. She's at jadediary.com.
Beautiful young lady, beautiful.
I thought that song sounded familiar. We looked it up as we were playing it. That's actually a Prince song. Prince wrote it for Martika, And I think that is a great example of what we've been talking about that kind of wraps this whole show up in a really nice ribbon, in that if you've got a song, it can continue to make you money for years to come.
And, she has such a delicate, clear, crisp voice. Very, very nice.
She did a really, really good job with it. She's got a nice package here, did a lot on the artwork, and you can look at the different photographs that she's had, not only on the cover of the CD, but throughout the one sheet she gave us on the back, in the booklet, and it's her whole image throughout. It really does a great job of showing who she is, and it wasn't a surprise when we played this and it sounded like it did.
Right,
although it sounded better than I thought it would. It was so well done.
But it's very professional, to your point, very polished. Looks like she had some good art direction experience or direction on that. So, yeah, very nice there, Jade.
Does that help when I come into a bank and I've got good art direction and what I'm showing you for my records looks good and I'm dressed in a suit and tie? Is that going to help me get a loan with
If you were in a suit and tie, I'd say, okay, either you've got a court date or you've been to a funeral.
That's going to tip you off for some musicians, isn't it? They don't look comfortable in suit and ties.
Right. And it would be truly a rarity that there would be a suit and tie in our office. But no, I would absolutely respect the style. I know Kenny, who's one of the fabulous superlatives with Mr. Marty Stewart, he comes in looking like $1 million in styling. So,
Sure.
So sometimes they do come in looking mighty fine.
Well, Marty Stewart, he's always going to look like $1 million.
Oh, exactly. But no, we do not discriminate based on your attire, because many times some of the biggest folks in show business don't invest necessarily in what they wear to the bank. So that won't be the driving factor
it's like
at all.
Sam Walton in that old pickup truck.
Exactly.
You never know.
Right. Or, you've got Warren Buffett with Berkshire Hathaway, who lives in the same home that his kids grew up in, and goes to the McDonald's drive-thru, which I appreciate. I'm always good for a 99-cent burger. So, gotta love that.
That's how he got rich.
Yes.
And I'm going to end it with that question. Your advice, one piece of advice for musicians who want to be rich.
Have a good financial advisor. And obviously, I would love to be that person, the banker. But truly, you've got to surround yourself with a team of professionals. And whether that's the manager that you're working with, your business manager, the banker, the attorney, it is so key to surround yourself with professionals. And you may need to pay a little bit more initially, but you'll know that sales contract has been negotiated properly. Not sales contract, but recording contract or publishing contract. And there could be a sales contract if you're buying a home. It's just surrounding yourself with reputable people, quality folks that have your interest at their best heart. And I've been so blessed to get to do that for 28 years and would welcome an opportunity to work with any of your friends in the music business.
Right. So go check her out, Lisa Harless. And how can people get in touch with you, Lisa?
I'm at 615-748-2447. Our main website is regions.com. And I'm right there in the Roundabout Plaza at 1600 Division Street, Suite 100. Come in, check out the Beatles exhibit, and let's find out how I can help with your banking needs.
So next time you're in Nashville, the Roundabout is right at the very end of Music Row.
I like to say we're at the head of Music Row, David.
The head of the Music Row table. Go see Lisa Harless at Regions Bank. She'll help you get your financial house in order. Lisa, thanks for being here on Music Business Radio.
My pleasure. Love me some Lightning 100.
Thanks for listening. Thanks for sending in demos. For more from us, check us out online at musicbusinessradio.com. I'll see you next week where I'll interview another industry guest.
Thanks for listening to Music Business Radio, a production of Tuned In Broadcasting Incorporated, Nashville, Tennessee. Recorded in the WRLT Lightning 100 studios. Music Business Radio is produced by Gary Crane, David Hooper, and Dan Buckley. Special technical assistance by Tom Hansen. With Pro Tools post-production by Justin Hamill and Dan Buckley. And Lester held the antenna. For information on syndication, guest booking, demo derby music, or downloading previous episodes, visit musicbusinessradio.com.
Music Business Radio.